Okay, let's talk about stock dividends. So the first thing I want to point out to you is that I've put a picture on here that says no cash. This is because a stock dividend is a dividend that a corporation gives to its shareholders, but they're not giving out cash. Instead, they're giving out stock. So that's the first thing I want to point out to you. Okay, I've given you the information that will be given, and then you're going to be making the journal entries from this information. And I've made this sheet, and by the way, all of these sheets are available in my modules. These are Excel worksheets, and I typically will make each of these videos from a sheet down here. So in other words, if you want to be able to print off this for your own notes, then you would just go down to the Chapter 13 workbook and click on stock dividend, and you could actually print this completed sheet out so that you could have it for your notes. So just a little tidbit there. So back to my stock dividend. So we give this information. It's a distribution of shares of stocks to stockholders. And let me tell you why they would do this. Sometimes they want to give a dividend, but maybe they don't have the extra cash. So instead they decide to give out shares of their stock. Alright, so on December the 15th, Lara Corp declares a stock dividend of 5%. Now you learned before that when you see a percentage given as a description of stock, it has to do with a dividend. In this situation, that 5% is telling us how many shares we're going to be giving away. So let me show you how to calculate how many shares we're going to be giving away. It says it's a 5% stock dividend. You're going to take that number and you're going to multiply it by the number of shares that we already have issued. So if you say equals 0.05, because it's a 5%, times the number of shares that we already have issued, which is 2 million, you can find out how many shares of stock we're giving away in this dividend. And it's 100,000. Okay, so that's the first calculation you need to learn, and that is seen in the very beginning of each of these, which is stock dividend percent times number of shares. Just realize that that's telling you how many shares you're going to be giving away. All right, then it says it's to be issued on January the 10th to stockholders of record on December the 31st, and the market price of the stock on the date of declaration is $31 per share. This is more information. It's common stock. It's $20 par. And 2 million shares have been issued. Okay, so on this date of declaration, that's when we set up our liability. It's going to be December the 15th, and we're going to debit an account called stock dividends. Stock dividends are similar to what you had before you called them cash dividends. These are now called stock dividends. All right, and we're going to do exactly what I've written here, which is say stock dividend percent, 0.05, times 2 million, we already know that equals 100,000, but we're going to do it again anyway, times the market price, because that's the value that we're going to be giving away. The market price of that share of stock at this date is $31. So we're going to have $3,100,000 to stock dividends. All right, then the next account is going to be called stock dividends distributable, because on our date of payment, we're going to actually distribute these. But today, we're just saying we're going to be distributing them later. So we're going to say stock dividends distributable. And you can read how to do that. But it's going to be stock dividends percent times 0.05 times 2 million. We already know that's the 100,000 shares that we're giving away. And this time, it's going to be at par value, because this account will eventually become our common stock account. I'll show you how at the end. But it will always be put on at par value. So there's your par value. I think I typed in something wrong. Let me try that again. It should be 0.05 times 2 million times par value, which is $20. There we go, $2 million. And then everything over par is going to still be our paid-in capital in excess of par value. So we can subtract to find out how much was over our par value. And we get to be $1,100,000. So notice that part of this looks like an issued stock. This is going to, when we go ahead and distribute it, we're actually going to put that to common stock. And this is paid-in capital in excess of par. So this part right here looks just like we issued stock. And that's because we did. We issued stock, but we did it as a dividend. So anybody that was already holding stock, we paid them additional stock. So that's why it looks like an issued stock. And now, after we issue this stock, we will not have 2 million shares issued. We will have 2 million plus 100,000 shares issued. So that's how that works. Okay, so now what I want to show you is that on the data distribution, you're going to be focusing on this line right here, on the data distribution, what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the amount in the distributable and go ahead and distribute them. And that's when it turns into common stock. So now you can easily see why we had to put this on at the number of shares times par value, because we always put common stock on at par value. So that took care of our stock dividends distributable. Our paid-in capital in excess of par is correct and already there. So the only question left is what happens to stock dividends? Well, the same thing that happens to cash dividends happens to stock dividends. That is, it eventually gets closed to retained earnings at the end of the period. So it reduces retained earnings because we have distributed some of our earnings, this time in the form of common stock. So that is how you do a stock dividend. Let me know if you have any questions.